Okay. So we got to do our stretches. We'll probably do a little bit of spider walk. We're not going to go crazy with it today. I think we should probably focus on picking exercises, and then I'm going to go work on some demo stuff. Actually, I got to get something real quick. I got to get my alpha brain. So my brain is all alpha. You see this stuff, alpha GPC. Only smart people, only people with big brains can really benefit from that. You need to have, to be fair, you do have to have a high IQ to understand Rick and Morty. To be fair, you really just need a high IQ to understand Rick and Morty. Wubba-lubba-lub-dub. You see, it's actually very intelligent. You see, Rick represents nihilism, and absurdism in the state of in the Nietzschean sense. And if the abyss stares into you, the abyss, you. Morty, I'm gonna have to have sex with underage girls, Morty. So we're going to do whole notes at 60 BPM. And this will surely create us into the greatest guitar god ever. We're skipping stretches today. Today is a no stretch kind of day. Sometimes you're not going to get that stretch in. You're just going to have to work with what you got. We're training our body to perform in all scenarios, with or without stretch. Yeah, I gotta tune it. This is how the real experts train. They put themselves in every possible scenario. Sometimes you're not going to get the stretch. You're just going to have to play whole notes at 60 BPM right out the gate. Whole notes at 60 BPM. Only real guitar pros can do that. Because the slow beats are just as hard as the fast beats. Morty, I just shit my pants. Morty, you're gonna have to clean it out. You just need a high IQ. If you don't have a high IQ, you're just not gonna get it. Sometimes you're gonna have to play a show with cold fingers, eh? What if it's an outside show and it's like -4 degrees in Chicago? Yeah? Can't always expect to have warm fingers that were just stretched. You have to be prepared for everything that comes your way if you want to be a real ultimate guitar god. Mm. Mm, mm, mm. Alright, now we're gonna bump it up. We get some more Alpha Brain. And then we're gonna bump it up to, we're gonna keep it at 60 BPM, but we're gonna play half notes. You know what I might start doing? I think what I might start do is I might get up really early in the morning and do all the spider walks and everything, and then start recording when I start doing the more interesting practices. I'll do the spider walks beforehand. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. So I'll get up, I'll do the spider walks on my own. I'll get up really early for that. 5, 6 in the morning, and I'll just spider walk my ass off. And then when I go into the real practice, I'm just gonna fucking be a beast. And we're just gonna do sweep picking and all of that and triads and everything. as Nietzsche says, bringing it back to Nietzsche, whatever does not kill you makes you stronger. Or as Tool says in Stink Fist, right? This is what a Tool song is like. A Tool song has levels. It has like 5 levels of interpretation. The first level is, wow, this song sounds cool. It sounds good. That is the first level, right? The second level is the surface level interpretation, which is, for example, Stinkfist. On the surface level, that is a song about 2 men fisting each other in the ass, right? It says, uh, um, your finger deep inside the border line. This may hurt a little, but it's something you'll get used to. Relax and take my hand, right? But the next level of interpretation is this. It's really about the hedonic treadmill, the philosophical concept that what is done in the pursuit of pleasure will require more and more effort and a greater amount of force and endlessly. So you can imagine a treadmill and that's just continually going faster and faster and faster and faster, and you can never get enough, right? And as Tool says, I'll keep digging till I feel something. Right? And then the fourth level of interpretation. This is the fourth level of interpretation. That first level was, this sounds good. Second level, this is about 2 men fisting each other in the ass. Third level is about the hedonic treadmill. Fourth level is the meta. It's really about the band and their own music. And they're literally asking themselves, they're like making more and more complicated, more and more incredible music. But it's still not enough for them. Like, think about how complicated Tool has become, and now they're saying, like, I'll keep digging till I feel something. They just made their music more and more and more incredible. But it's still not enough, right? And in the fifth level of interpretation, it winds its way back to the first level, which is, this sounds fucking awesome. You're shoulder deep within the borderline now. Relax and take my hand. So yeah, Tool has a song called Lateralis, and it's about, okay, Lateralis is such a, what a troll of a song. So the song is composed to the rhythm of the Fibonacci sequence. If you are unfamiliar with the Fibonacci sequence, it is a series of numbers and like a sort of spiral mathematical equation that shows up everywhere in the universe, through galaxies, through like plants. It's just an endlessly reoccurring sequence. Here, let me look it up so I can describe it better. In mathematics, the Fibonacci number is commonly denoted by F22 subscript 22y, form a sequence, the Fibonacci sequence, in which each number is the sum of the two preceding ones. The sequence commonly starts from 0 and 1, and although the authors start the sequence from 1 and 1, or sometimes from 1 and 2. Anyways, it's like a spiral. It's like a perfect spiral that shows up everywhere in the universe. And so they composed this song perfectly to the Fibonacci sequence rhythmically, right? They use time signatures that match the Fibonacci sequence. And then when they do the verses, the amount of syllables per each verse is also with the Fibonacci sequence, right? So it's black and white are all I see in my infancy. Red and yellow then came to me, reaching out to me, lets me see, right? And so the Fibonacci is a spiral, and then the actual syllables spiral out in the numerical syllable count. And then rhythmically, the time signatures of the rhythm spiral out. And so it's mathematically aligned with like this constant in the universe, right? And there's all these different levels upon which they like organize it with the Fibonacci sequence, and they're doing all this fucking complicated shit. And then the chorus for that song says, overthinking, overanalyzing, separates the body from the mind, withering my intuition, leaving opportunities behind. And so what a troll. They make the most complicated fucking song imaginable, and then they say, like, don't overthink things, don't overanalyze things. Like, it's like they went through all of that to say that. That's a funny thing. That's the artist's dilemma. They go through like all sorts of fucking horrible shit just to say some like some idea that's already been communicated, essentially, in a simpler form. You guys went through all of that just to say don't overthink things? Alright, let's go up to 70 BPM. And we're going to do whole notes at 70 BPM for this spider walk. In the future, we're going to do this every morning without you guys, without the camera and all of that, and all my YouTube friends. So let's try mixing note values. Let's respond to the vibe, right? We can hold our feet to the fire, or we can vibe. So I think what I want to do right now with this spider walk, and my hands are pretty cold, so it's kind of hard to keep a consistent rhythm. Maybe it would be good to do the stretches. Yeah, we'll do these simple stretches where it's just I pull back the whole hand, right? So I do each finger. Each finger ones are probably better. You're supposed to do the whole hand one at the end. There, we did, that was 16th notes or that was 8th notes, I mean, for a second. Right? So these are whole notes to, these are half notes. And these are quarter notes. And then these are 8th notes. And not every day is an A plus, as they say. Okay, so what's some things we can try and working on? I think the thing is, I think since we've done the spider walk every day for a while, it's become a good warm up, genuinely. Like, I feel like after I get through the spider walk, I'm all warmed up. And so I do like the spider walk. It's like the most simple of most fundamental of skills. That being said, for whichever reason that is, today it's not manifesting into reality. I lack the discipline. I lack the discipline. But you know what? It is the Sabbath. So we're going to celebrate it by breaking the mold today and just trying to see if we can see ourselves. We got to take a step back and observe, what are we doing here? What's happening? Maybe we can try to put together. I have this schedule written out, and it's very. Uh, I think it's pretty good. And so it goes one stretches, spider walk, and spider walk variations. Then I have a bunch of variations written down, right? Then I say two triads, vertical triads, arpeggios, and 4-note arpeggios, right? And then I put like weird pentatonics as well. Because sometimes when you're messing around with 4-note arpeggios, you'll put in a 5th note, and then that's a pentatonic scale, but it isn't the normal pentatonic that everybody uses. And so I guess I'm classifying that as weird pentatonics. Perhaps we can look up the proper nomenclature for that. 3, picking and rhythm exercises, right? And then 4, song practice. Now I think that is very general, but I think that's pretty solid kind of organization there. Now at the bottom I put miscellaneous skills, and I don't number that, and I just lifts off a ton of miscellaneous skills that we should be regularly practicing. And that goes hammer-ons and pull-off exercises, and I tie that to legato. I put bending, mixing note values, which is when we play at different speeds. So we do half notes and then quarter notes and then eighth notes and then whole notes, right? Sweep picking, thumping, alternate picking, tapping, galloping, economy picking, harmonics, all sorts of different little skills, essentially. And so perhaps what we can try and do is we can try to make this more concise. Let's try rewriting this, because we've been looking at the same board every day. And let's trim the fat a little bit. So let me erase all of this. We'll start with a clean slate. So I don't want to change a ton actually, but we're just going to rewrite it so we can think about this. So let's do 2 do. Oh, I guess I must be on a mental retarded state right now, because I just wrote TD. Like I didn't write to do, like the whole I just wrote the first letter for each thing. To do. So number 1, stretch plus spider walks. That's nice and simple. Or hang on. So let's think about this. If we want to start doing the spider walks before we start recording, like earlier in the morning, should I put this on the board then? Well, yeah, okay, then I'm going to write that off the board. We could probably, I'm going to put like above here with no numbers, stretch, and I'm going to put an exclamation point, just so there's like that little reminder. Like, oh yeah, I should be stretching. So number 1, now this is what I want to get into. What do we need to do to get better right now? Let's make a checklist. So we have a bunch of picking exercises. Okay, but let's not even think about exercises yet. We have some picking skills we want to improve at. We can alternate pick, but we're not incredible. Uh, we can sort of economy pick. I have some capacity to do legato, and I can sort of sweep in one direction. One direction. Yep, one direction. That is a band. I'm not going to riff on that. We want to improve on those skills. So is that what we want to start with then? I think what's gonna have to happen is I'll see how this changes how these. I'm gonna have to feel it out. Let's say like tomorrow I get up and I spider walk really early, and then I go into the thing. I'm gonna have to feel out what I end up doing. Like how does that actually affect what I want to do and my pace essentially. And so we can try to theory craft. Let's say like, all right, start with alternate picking, whatever. Uh, okay, let's do this. Here, I'll write this. Picking. We'll start number one, picking exercises. And then I'll put this at the sidebar. Alternate picking into legato or econ. We'll put it into economy. Economy picking. I'll put eco, alt into eco, into leg, stands for legato, into sweep. So we'll work on those 4 picking styles. Okay, so, and we'll see how this ends up going, because we might try this tomorrow, and it'd be like, I don't want to do picking exercises first. Like, and then so I could do like number 2, rhythm exercises. Now, I don't think I have very sophisticated rhythm. So what we have been doing on the front of rhythm is that we do this. We go, these are whole notes, these are half notes, those are quarter notes, these are triplets, these are sextuplets, whatever, right? We just kind of like play those different rhythms. But if you know anything about music, it's not that simple. Uh, if you're just playing in a straight rhythm, that is not wrong, but it is not the whole picture. And so, obviously, um, you could come up with weird rhythms intuitively. But what I'm trying to get to the point is where I can understand those rhythms. And so it's like, yeah, you could break it apart. Like, there's different tools people who study rhythm use, right? So there's time signatures, there's note values. But I lack, beyond that, I don't have much vocabulary to understand it. But here's what we'll try and do. I think generally the way I tend to make progress on learning stuff is goes something like this. I'll work on what I do know, and as I'm enhancing my knowledge on what I do know, a question will open up. Or someone will use a phrase that I wasn't familiar with, and I'll look it up, and then that'll like open some new doors. And so I guess what we can try and do is we work on mixing note values and time signatures, because that is all I really understand rhythmically. And so, if I start developing a better understanding of the analytical side of rhythm, I think that'll give me. So, this is what happens. It's like I used to just play, right? And then at some point, I started understanding the notational, analytical side of music theory, right? And that gave me tools to understand what I was doing better, right? And so what's going to happen is that the more I go into rhythm, I'll understand different ways upon which what I was doing was different. Like, I'll be able, like, so that's why this felt this way, and then that little one felt this way, right? Like, I'll have, like, it starts from a feeling, right? Everything starts from a feeling, right? But then you can go, oh, okay, that is in a 7/8 beat. I see. And then that one's in 6/4, and then you mix these quarter notes to eighth notes or whatever the fuck, right? Whatever you're doing. Hmm. So, okay, picking exercises and rhythm exercises. Those are the two things I think are important to focus on. Now, I think those two skills are related on some level because while we are doing our picking exercises, it is my imagination that we would be also working on mixing note values. So let me do like these arrows between that, right? We do an arrow between mixing note values and all of these picking styles. I don't know necessarily if that's true for sweep picking. No, it probably is. So for alternate picking, economy picking, legato, and sweep picking, I think the main way that we can start to get better at those skills is by mixing note values, which is a rhythmic idea, right? So speeding up and slowing down in layman's terms, right? With control. And then this is what I also got to put on. And since I want to start with picking and rhythm exercises. And then number 3, I think we go into arpeggios. And I think we're still going to practice triads, but we're at the point where we can just say we're going to go right into arpeggios. We're not going to practice triads. Well, we are going to practice triads, but I don't need to put that on the board. The main thing is that we are working on our arpeggios, because that is like the final boss of the notational aspect of music. So this is then what we could write then. Under arpeggios, I'd say we start with this. Okay, so, oh yeah, I want to find this. What's that little, because I don't want to write out minor and major, but they have like those little symbols, like a little triangle means minor or something like that. Minor and major abbreviations. Because I don't want to write out those whole words. Okay, yeah, so a triangle means major. A little circle means diminished. A circle with a line through it means half diminished. And then minor, or augmented is a plus. And then what is minor? Minor is a minus. Well, that makes no fucking sense at all. Major is a triangle, minor is like a minus sign. So let's do this. Minor, that's the minus sign, comma, triangle, 7th. Alright, this is what I'm just trying to say. We want to do the minor, the major, the half diminished, 7th chords. Diminished and half diminished. Alright, let's just make it simple. Let's write 7th arpeggios, comma, 9th arpeggios, comma, 6th arpeggios, comma, 11th and 13th. And so if we can master those 4-note arpeggio systems, and some of them are 5-note arpeggios, but if you can, you're likely to sub out some of the notes and make them into 4-note arpeggios. And then the main thing we also got to do is we also have to be able to see the triad arpeggios within the 4-note arpeggios, essentially, right? So we spent a lot of time going back to the basics and working on our triads, and that was really, really good. And so now we can try to dissect the more complicated arpeggios and see the simple arpeggios inside of them. Because we're going into the 4- and 5-note arpeggios. But those are all built upon the 3-note arpeggios, of which there's only 4. There's the minor, major, diminished, and sus triads. And so essentially, if we can understand that and then try to understand that all these more complicated arpeggios, you're just adding notes to the simple arpeggios, that could bring us to a very high advanced level of music understanding. Cool. So let's review this for now. Picking exercises: alternate, economy, legato, and sweep picking. Rhythm exercises: mixing note values, and that goes into the previous stuff too, and time signatures. Now, I think what's going to happen is we're going to learn a lot more about rhythm, and then we'll be able to flesh out in a better way what we want to do on that front. Now, number 3, I put arpeggios. And I just listed a bunch of arpeggios we should start working on. So the 7th arpeggios, and then this is what I wanted, because it's like, that's not descriptive enough. 7th, I'm going to put underneath all of this, minor, comma, major, comma, diminished, comma, half diminished, dominant, and augmented. Okay. But as we get into this, we can simplify this section of it, essentially. So every single one of these are going to have a minor and a major variation. Obviously, there's going to be a minor 7th and a major 7th. Now, the dominant, I think only the 7th has a dominant, right? I don't know if there's such thing as a dominant 9. Let's look at this. Dominant 9th. Dominant 9. There is a dominant 9. Cool. Why wouldn't there be a dominant 9, stupid? Alright, now see dominant 11. Is that a thing too? Yeah, it is. Cool. Alright, so then we could keep that. Minor, major, diminished, half diminished, dominant, and augmented. So if we just start seeing, and so listen, this is the way it works. Once you start to see the pattern in one series of notational things, right? So once you understand that this makes it a dominant 7, and then this note makes it a dominant 9, then this note makes it a dominant 11, then you can start just like intuitively going, well then I add this note and then I'll be a dominant 13th, right? And so it's just the more you go into it, the more of an intuition you develop. So let's see. What is some good stuff that we can get into then? What are the skills that I'm not thinking about? That is the question. Like, like, stuff totally unrelated to like being good at guitar, but whatever. Like, Well, let's think about this. What do I need to know? Well, okay, let's think about this. What am I missing musically? Other than like a drummer. Hmm. Picking exercises. Alternate picking, economy picking, legato sweep. Rhythmic exercises, mixing note values, time signatures. Arpeggios, 7th, ninth, 6th, 11th, and 13th. Minor, major, diminished, half diminished, dominant, augmented. So I think that is a good place to start. Let's just focus on those skills. But that doesn't mean there isn't more out there. Hmm. I wonder what, there's probably some obvious stuff that I'm not thinking of. But it's like, I think at that point it comes into, oh yeah, let me add this to our arpeggios. I'm gonna add suspended. Now that's a small thing we missed, but that's not really what I'm thinking about. Suspended, so we got minor, major, diminished, half diminished, dominant, augmented, and suspended arpeggios. So I've gotten to the point where um, I think I'm pretty good with the triad arpeggios, and then in the instant, right, I can mess around and create the new arpeggios, right? So like if I play a chord like this, um, then I can go like this, and I can make that into an arpeggio because I go, all right, they have this uh, uh, major seventh, this perfect fifth, and a minor third, and I can create that into an arpeggio. Even though I guess I do know that that is a minor major arpeggio, a minor major seven. But like what I'm getting at is, in the moment while I'm playing, I'll land upon a weird chord, and I have the skills to arpeggiate that weird chord, even if I don't necessarily know in the instant that that is a like a suspended 11th flat 13th whatever the fuck, right? Now, I would like, I think the listen, I'm talking in terms of I'm missing this, I'm missing that. Let's count our blessings, all right? I think I'm in pretty decent territory. I would say decent. I would not say good. Um, Most people cannot play guitar. And then of the people who do play guitar, most people are not on my level. That being said, I am not on a lot of other people's level. So I think the main things where I am deficient in are, it's a sort of, I'm like a sloppy guitar player, but there's a give and a take that comes to that. Because there are some people who play with perfect technique, absolute perfect technique, impeccable technique. However, it's totally soulless and it doesn't sound good, right? That being said, I think I might, well, I can potentially, you can justify like, oh, I have a lot of soul or whatever. There's still room for improvement in terms of playing cleanly. And so I think that's kind of what we're getting at here. We're working on the picking exercises, and so that our picking hand is more fluid. We're working on the rhythm exercises so that we can work in better rhythmic situations and maintain the steadier rhythm. And we're working on the arpeggios idea so that we can not play wrong notes, essentially. And if we work on those three fronts, that is going to clean up our guitar playing over time. Now, obviously, being a great guitar player is not the whole picture. But to what we're doing here, I think we're putting in good work. I think we've made good progress. If you were to go back to some of these earlier stuff, it's clear I've really pieced together a clear picture of what I'm trying to do on this piece of equipment. Okay, now, so I've previously put this thing, number 4, song practice. Now, I think when I wrote that, I meant it in the sense of we're going to learn some other person's song, which isn't a terrible thing to do. It's not awful practice. That's a pretty decent way to learn. However, I'm just going to write that on the board again, but I'm going to have it in mind that this is broadly going to be interpreted as after I finish the practice, I'm going to work on my songs. So, yeah, there's that. So here's what I want to do with the rest of the time I'm going to spend. I think what I want to do, because this is what for some reason I'm most interested in this second. I kind of want to revisit time signatures. Because sometimes you have an idea where it's like, yeah, I know time signatures. They're, time signatures. They're like, like time signatures. But the more I think about it, it's clear to me that I could refresh. And so I think in the pursuit of understanding time signatures, we're going to open some new doors on what to practice in regards to this, the area of rhythm, right? because that's when I look at this board, that's what's sticking out to me in this instant. Time signatures. I'm like, do I know time signatures? Like I know time, like 4/4, 6/8. I know time signatures, but do I really though? Do I deeply understand time signatures? No, that's probably the thing I understand the least on this board. So let's watch some of these like music theory 101 type shit about time signatures. Here, there's a 4-minute video by Ryan Ryan Exams. Okay, Ryan, teach us about time signatures. And this is one of those people that uses the fucking, like, you know what I'm talking about? Words, English. He writes music out on those sheet musics, right?
Music is divided into bars by bar lines. The
Right.
time signature.
So music is divided by bars on bar lines. Yes. Let's take this really slow. So one bar, that is what they're counting on the thing. So it's like, you know how it's like 3/4? I think the bars are the 4, right?
Those two numbers at the beginning of the piece tell us how many beats or counts will be between one bar line and the next.
Right. And so this is what it is. I might be jumping ahead, but I'm trying to guess. This is like when the teacher is like, does anybody know the answer? And then you raise your hand, you're like, it's this. But then they're like, no, you're wrong. So I'm just going to say it first. I think I'm pretty sure what it is that the number on top is the amount of beats, and then the number below is the amount of bars, right? Or the beats between each bar, and then so it's like if it's 3/4, then that means it's 4 bars with 3 beats in between it, and that's like the swing. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, right?
We divide things up like this because it makes the music way easier to read. No bar lines equals mega confusion. So here's a short piece without any bar lines. Let's see if we can fill them in. Before we do anything else, let's figure out how many counts each of these notes have. In the last video, we learned that all crotchets have 1 count, all minims have 2 counts, and all...
Alright, so now he's talking about completely unrelated stuff. So he's talking about sheet music stuff, which I don't understand, right? And so basically what he's showing is there's like a little musical note, and the one that is filled in is equal to 1 note, and the one that is empty is equal to 2 notes. I guess I can kind of understand that.
Semibreves have 4.
And then there's one where it's just a dot with no line, and then it has 4 counts. So I don't know what the fuck any of that's talking about.
Like this. With the counting down, let's look at the time signature at the beginning of the tune. This particular time signature is called 4/4. For now, let's forget about the bottom number and focus on the more important top number. This tells us how many beats will be between one bar line and the next.
So I was right about the
In
top
this case,
number.
the top number is 4, so every bar will be exactly 4 beats long.
So what that means is that each bar is going to be, so if it's 4/4, that means each bar is 4 beats long. So this is all like 101 stuff. I do know this. I'm more interested once we start getting into weirder rhythms. This is what I want to get to. So there's all these complicated ideas like polyrhythms, which I don't understand how. I understand what a polyrhythm is conceptually, but what is the framework you would need to have to start like manipulating polyrhythms, right? And so a polyrhythm, that's when you have 2 different time signatures on top of each other of different rhythms that like okay, let's say you have like 7/8 over 6/8. You know what I mean? And so those are going to go for a long time until they sync up.
All we need to do now is add up the counts until we get 4, and then draw a nice vertical bar line. Easy. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, bar line.
So this is kind of
1,
below
2,
our level,
3, 4,
but we're just going to sit
bar
with
line.
it just because
1, 2, 3,
I have to
4,
humble myself.
bar line. And finally, 1, 2, 3, 4, bar line.
Right. So I guess we're also going to pick up a little bit of sheet music understanding too. So if you look at this example he has, right? Let me show this with you guys. You guys aren't even seeing this. I have to be a good host. All right, check it. So the ones that are all black and have the line, those are equal to 1 beat essentially. So he puts 4 of those, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Then on the next bar, right, he puts 2 of those ones of the same kind of thing, but has an empty dot, and so those are worth 2 beats. But he only puts 2 of those, and it still adds up to 4. Then on the second one, he has 2 of the ones with the black in it, and then 1 of the ones with the 2, and so that's 1, 1, 1, 2, and those all add up to 4. And then the last one is just one of the empty dots, and that adds up to 4 as well.
Now, because it's the end of the tune, we need to add a special type of bar line to show that we're done. It looks like this, and we call it a double bar line.
Okay,
There
and
you
so basically, if you're ending something, you put 2 lines, and that's called a double bar line, essentially. Whatever.
We have it. We've used a time signature to draw in some bar lines and make some bars. Let's clap it,
1,
shall
2,
we?
3,
Always
4.
a good idea to clap these kind of things. Ready?
Oh,
1,
he wants us to clap
2,
it.
3,
3,
4.
4.
1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4.
4.
1,
1. Alright, I'm not gonna clap
3,
that shit.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome, let's try another example. Just like before, let's give the crotchets 1 count and the minims 2 counts. Now check out that time signature.
Alright, so now
This
it's
time
in
the top
3,
number
4.
isn't 4, it's 3. This particular time signature is called 3-4. We're in 3-4 time, so each bar now needs to have exactly 3 beats. Let's
Yeah.
do this. 1, 2, 3, bar line. 1, 2, 3, bar line. 1, 2, 3, bar line. And 1, 2, 3, double bar line.
So is those empty dots, do you have to like play them differently?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
No, you
1,
don't.
2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Man, drawing all these bar lines is fun.
Okay, so,
Let's try one more.
alright, now he's doing 2, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Alright, clapping like a retard over here.
Again, let's put in the counting. Crotchets get 1 count, minims get 2 counts. You know the drill. This
Okay, and so this is, alright,
Time we're
this is
looking
what I
at
wanted
2,
to
4.
confirm. Because sometimes I figure something out and then I don't have it confirmed, and I just kind of, I trust that I know it when I might not be right. So this is, I was confirmed to be correct. The 2 on the top is the number of beats, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a 2. The number on the top is the number of beats, and the number on the bottom is the number of measures, or the number of bars, rather, right? So 2, 4, that's 2 beats for 4 measures. 3, 4 is 3 beats for 4 measures. Or is measure the right word? I say that word measure, but maybe it's supposed to be bars. 2 beats for 4 bars. So we're trying, this is what we're doing. We're going back to rhythm 101, because we're just going to try to build it up from the most fundamental of fundamentals.
or time signature. 2 is on the top, so every bar needs to be exactly 2 beats long. 1, 2, bar line. 1, 2, bar line. 1, 2, clapping. 1, 2. And quiz. Here's a tune with all the bar lines marked in.
Alright, I don't like
But
this,
bar
dude.
3.
We confirmed what we were trying to figure out. But let's go to this. Alright, here we go. Rick Beato. Prog rock. How to count odd meters. And it, on the thumbnail it says 13/8. So that is what we're trying to get to. We can sit here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, all we want. But then once you start, what I'm trying to understand is the more complicated shit. 13/8. Like, what the fuck is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 1, 2, 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do we get our brain around that?
On today's episode, we're going to talk about how to count and feel odd time signatures.
So we're going to learn about progressive rock, or at least that is the... Yeah, we're going to learn about progressive rock.
Now, I know there's a lot of you that are into progressive rock that follow this channel. You're into bands like Rush and Tool and Periphery and Animal.
Yeah, so Rush, Tool,
As leaders, and Yes, and Genesis, and
Yes,
all types of
Genesis,
progressive rock.
Animals as
I've talked
leaders.
about
That's
odd
that
time
Tosin
signatures in
Abasi
certain
guy.
Videos, for example, my video Tool Schism.
This is what we're trying to figure out. So like Tool, what they would do is that for one bar they would be in 7/8, and then in the next bar they'd be in 6/8, and then in the next bar they'd be in 7/8, and then so they'd be constantly switching time signatures bar to bar. But I'm trying to systematize how that works. Because I could go, yeah, they do that, but it's like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Video where it has a lot of changing time signatures. But I haven't actually talked about how to count and feel an odd time signature. Meaning, what is my process, or how do you figure them out? Now, many times you can tell it's in an odd time just because you're tapping along with it and you can feel that the time turns around somewhere. Okay, so then it's a matter of figuring out, okay, what are the elements that make up this time signature? I want to play a tune by a band called Polini. This is an Australian guitarist that fronts this band. I was listening to them the other day. I actually first heard about them, I think, from Steve Vai a couple years ago. And I was listening on Spotify to their first tune the other day, and it's called Electric Sunrise, and it starts out, and it's obviously in an odd time. And I thought this would be actually a good tune to talk about how you actually figure out what the meter is. So let's take a listen. Okay, you can already tell it's not in 4/4.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2.
Da,
Yeah, so something.
da, da.
So yeah, all right. I see exactly what he's talking about. Da, 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 da,
Okay, so
da,
I know it's
da.
a regular pattern, meaning that it keeps recurring.
Yeah.
So now I have to figure out what the additive pattern is, meaning what are the groupings of 3s and 2s
Right.
are in this.
So right there, he's trying to analyze some progressive rock thing, and then he goes da 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 da, right? That little detail, da da, like that shit. How am I gonna start like understanding that? So let's watch this video.
So breaking it up into 2s and 3s, I would count it like
He breaks it up into 2s and 3s. All right. So this is kind of what I like and hate about Rick Beato, is that he'll like be answering questions you didn't know to ask yet, and then it's have to go like, hold up, like slow down. What did you just say? You broke it up into 2s and 3s? One, two, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. Or I see what he's saying. Okay, I don't fully see it, but I kind of see where he's going with it. Like if you break it up into twos and threes, you can like pick it apart easier, I guess. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or, I don't know. Let's watch this.
Like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Listen.
Oh yeah, okay. And so now my brain just flashed back to what he just did. He goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right? That makes my brain flash back to some video I saw of George Harrison, right? And George Harrison of the Beatles, he put all these Hindu rhythms into it, into some of their music. So if you break down "Here Comes the Sun," he puts this this Hindu thing where it goes, it like counts down, goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. Right? So it goes 3 counts of 3, 2 counts of 2, and then 1 count of 1. You follow what I'm saying? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. And so that's a very, very like Indian kind of thing. Da 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 da. Right? And he puts that in like "Here Comes the Sun." Da 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 da. Okay, I didn't necessarily figure anything out, but I could tell I'm getting warmer onto what I'm trying to understand with this rhythm stuff.
Let's see if that works. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I would say that that is a 13/8. That's my first impression on how to count.
Okay, so this is what Rick just did. He goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then he counted those all together 3, 6, 9, 1, 2, 1, 2. And he goes, I think that's 13/8. And so is that how you figure it out? You break it up into 2 and 3s and then you put it all together? One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So 3, 6, 9, 1, 2 is 11, another 2 is 13. Okay, so I'm going to have to try to do that when I'm listening to Tool next. I'm going to try to break it apart in 2s and 3s. So you break it up into 2s and 3s and then you add it all together. Is that why they call it math rock? Actually, I already know why they call it math rock. It's because it's written in time signatures, and time signatures are like equations, 13/8, right? But the whole point of math rock is that like really on some level, subgenres. I believe subgenres are pretty stupid, right? On some level, like it's all like rock music, it's all hip hop, whatever, right? But what like math rock is basically just like a subgenre of prog rock, progressive rock, right? When you really get down to it. But it's like progressive rock. This is what math rock is. Math rock is when people in the indie slash punk scene were started making progressive rock, but they didn't come from the 70s and the 80s, so they gave it a different name. They're like, it's math rock. It's not progressive rock. Progressive rock, that's like Yes, that's like Rush. We're nothing like them. That's hilarious. Like I just put that together in my mind, but that's pretty much what happened. You had indie bands and punk bands in the 90s and the 2000s that were making progressive rock, but they didn't want to call it progressive rock, so they gave it a new name. Or maybe they didn't even realize that they were making progressive rock, even though that's what they were doing. Obviously there are still math rock bands. It's on some level it's an aesthetic thing, right? It's an aesthetic difference. It's the same exact musical concepts as progressive rock, but aesthetically they are indie and punk on some level. So they call it a different name. It's math rock. Okay, I'm returning to odd time signatures.
Let's check out when the main melody comes in. You'll notice even the drums are going ba-bomb at the end of the phrase. Check it out.
Oh my god, I think my brain's gonna explode. I think my brain's gonna explode right now. So you can end a phrase on the and. So you know how they go 1 E and 2 E and those are all like I just remembered that the E and all of that stuff. Where there's all the beats in between the beats. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and so once we're getting into the prog rock and the math rock area, then all of those little micro beats or whatever the technical term is are fair game as well. God damn. Alright, so Rick, save us, man. Explain this. Because he's playing this progressive rock song that's like ridiculously complicated, and I'm trying to count it out, and my brain is exploding. So he just...
Love that. Let's take a look at the riff. I've just transcribed it and see if it lines up with a 13/8 pattern. Okay, let me play it slowly first. That's the first line, and the second line goes. If I play it up to tempo, it goes something like this.
Okay, well, that's all in 13/8 though? Is that true?
Okay, if you look at the if I take these 16th notes and
So you could, if you break it up by, it goes, if you break it up in, by 16th notes, then you got all of those within 3, so it's 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, or 13, 8.
then subdivide into eighths and use the high E flat as the target note, you'll see.
Let's try working on this riff too, because that's pretty cool progressive rock. So he taps on the 12. I think they're in a weird tuning. So it's tap on 12, pull off onto 5, hammer onto the 9, tap on the 12 of the B string, pull off onto the 7, pull off on the 5, hammer onto the 7. So it's right, and then there's like another riff, but so okay, this is where I think, so okay, being able to like this is we learned something, at least we learned something, breaking it apart by 3s and 2s, that can help us predict the odd rhythms better, essentially. Now that is a very simple idea that I imagine is going to reoccur endlessly as we get into weirder and weirder rhythms. So I'm glad we got that out of the way.
See, you have the groupings of 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2. Or you could look at it as 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4.
Right, so you can also do it in 3s and 4s, right? So you can go 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Right? And this is why they call it math rock. Duh. Math rock is like Rick and Morty. You need a high IQ to really understand it.
Add those together equals 13, or 13 eighth notes. So if you look at the way I've broken this down, I've taken the 16th notes, broken them into eighths, and looked at the groupings using that high E flat each time as the way that you're feeling these different groupings. Because that every time that E flat hits, it's the beginning of a new group. So 3 groups of 3/8 notes, okay, which is 9, and then you have a group of 4/8 notes. So 9 and 4 is 13, or you can look at it as 3, 3, 3, 2, 2. I think it's easier to think of it as 3, 3, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Alright, so let's try that out. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, hang on. We can get this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fucking shit, that's hard.
To think of it as 3, 3, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.
Oh, I see. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's hard, man. Okay, hang on. Let's try that one more time.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You gotta say it faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So, man, that's really how it's done, eh? Okay, and then so now he's playing the song. What's hard now? This is where my brain wants to explode. It seems like they have multiple instruments and different time. I don't know if they're doing it in different time signatures, right? So we just focused on that one riff, right? That one riff is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. But then they got other shit where it's like 1, 2, 3, E, and 1, 2, 3, E, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, E, and right? Where it's in a different sort of like range.
Now, the difference between writing it and feeling it are two different things. I think it's easier to feel it in the way that they're playing it. Like,
Right. Oh my god. So when you try to think of it feeling wise, it's less accurate to what the actual rhythm is. So it's like if you try to clap along, like without thinking about it, it be dun 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 dun. But that's not what's actually going on. And so that's fascinating. So you have to kind of ride this line between feeling and also like information. Fucking shit. Right, because that's not accurate. Dun 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 dun.
one of the cool things about this
Jesus.
tune is it goes from 13/8 in the intro into a halftime feel for the riff and then the solo. Check it out.
Okay. So now they switch time signatures.
2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
Right, okay, so then just so that right. And so this is he's not playing a Tool song, but this is what I've observed in Tool, is that they'll go through a ton of measures in an odd time signature, right? And then they'll do that all the way up, and they'll have multiple, it's not just one time signature, they'll have multiple polyrhythms going on at once, right? And so I sometimes describe Tool as like a cosmic rhythm to it, cosmic. And the reason why I invoke the cosmos is because it's sort of like planets that are aligning, right? And so imagine this. You have polyrhythms that are very separate, and they, like planets, are all moving on their orbit separately. And then it'll come to a point where all of the polyrhythms align, like planetary alignments. And then they'll switch into a simple non-odd rhythm, right? And so once the planets align, then they'll go into 4/4, which is the standard rhythm of like every pop song ever. right? And so what just happened in this song that Rick Beato is analyzing is that it starts in 13/8 and now they just switch to 4/4. And since it was in such an odd time signature and then you switch to the 4/4, the 4/4 has even more of a punch to it. Right, so
halftime
listen.
feel for the riff and then the solo. Check it out.
So just bang.
2, 3,
Dun, 3, 4. Dun, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, but then they also still fuck with the rhythm a little bit though.
Then this part is still in halftime.
3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3,
Solo.
4.
When you think of halftime, don't think of
Okay,
halftime
and then when it's
necessarily
solo, it
as
sounds like
a
it goes to
slowdown.
6.
It's just where your snare is not on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Because you got that hi-hat. Ba, da, 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 da. So remember, there's many different ways of feeling an odd time signature. 5/4 time can be 2 plus 3 or 3 plus 2. 7/4 can be 2 plus 2 plus 3. It can be 2 plus 3.
Oh, so now, okay, he's giving me some good information. And so the way you can feel it is not always the same, right? So if you're playing an odd time signature, let's say it is 5/4. Sometimes it is going to be 3 plus 2, right? 5/4. Sometimes it is 3 plus 2, but sometimes it is 2 plus 3. Or if you're playing 7/8, sometimes it is 2 plus 2 plus 3, and then sometimes it is 2 plus 3 plus 2, and then other times it is 3 plus 2 plus 2. That makes a lot of sense. And so what I'm going to have to do is that when I'm playing, I'm going to have to try to observe the weirder time signatures I end up in. And the thing is, I can more accurately slip into the weird signatures if I understand it as you're breaking up multiples of 2 and 3 and 4, essentially. Now, complexity for the sake of complexity is generally pretty obnoxious. However, a complex thing that is like, okay, you know how they say brevity is the soul of wit? Well, sometimes something is very complicated, right? Like that, not everything is simple, and so sometimes something is complex, and the simplest way you can put it is still complex.
Plus 2 and 3 plus 2 plus 2. So what you need to be able to do is to subdivide and break the meter down into where it feels natural, where the natural subdivisions are in it.
And so now every time I hear a song, I'm just going to be doing mathematics. Because I'm a high IQ Jew. I should have been a physicist, really. In another dimension, I would have been a physicist. I would have been doing completely different problems.
Sometimes they're not always obvious, and sometimes they shift. Sometimes you'll have, a 7 where it'll be 2, 3, 2, and then it'll go to 3, 2, 2, for example. So always be aware of that, and these are ways to think when you're playing in an odd time. Now, when you have multiple odd time signatures, if you're going from 5 to 7 to 11, then you really have to count. We'll talk
Right.
more about that in future episodes.
Like
Until-
11, like what is an 11 time signature? 11 over what? 11 over 12? Like what is that? 11? Time signatures 11 over 4. What the fuck is that? How does that sound?
In 11th floor. And again, I'm going to show you how the time signature.
Let's listen to this. This is John McLaughlin. Who's that? I feel like I know who that is. I guess he was some sort of famous guitar teacher in the 60s. Frequently known as Mahavishnu John.
5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 1. 9, 10, 11, 1. See the 5 and the 9, very important.
Okay, so when you're playing an 11-4, the 5 and the 9 become important.
1, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. That is insane. I feel like just even thinking about that makes my brain want to explode. I think Tool uses 11-8 in a song.
Wizard. Did the double 11-8. Must have.
Which one is it? Yeah, Rosetta Stone. They put that on 10,000 Days. I think that's the one that they made about like their friend who took acid, and then he thought he found he was abducted by aliens or something. That was when Tool stopped being serious. Well, I guess you could say they were never serious, but they had dropped the illusion of seriousness. That was in 2007, when they went away for a little bit and then they came back. But that is a pretty funny song. 10,000 Days. That is see, thing is, it's like that's a great album, but maybe if I knew more about time signatures, I would like it more. That was when they went fully progressive rock, right? You know what I mean? That's when they just went like full on. We're just gonna make the most complicated fucking music that is configurable. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that is 11-8. Holy shit. See, I've listened to that song a million times and never considered it was an 11-8. So let's count this out.
Just stoned.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3. Let's count this out. Well, I'm gonna have to slow it down so I can keep up counting it. I'm gonna put it down at half speed.
Swanky shuffle stoned.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. Or let's try breaking it up into twos and threes like we learned, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That works way better actually. Yeah, and on their new album, Fear Inoculum, they also have a song in 11/8. In fact, the title song is 11/8.
Song Fear Inoculum is also in 11/8.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It's so much easier to break those complicated rhythms down with threes and twos. It's literally in 11/8. Am I supposed to count to 11 every time? No, that's retarded. Damn. Damn. So that is something I'm going to be toying around with all the time now. I got to hit the bathroom real quick. time signatures, how do we practice that? Other than just counting them out, right? Well, guitar time signature practice. At the risk of being silly with it, it's always good to see what shows up, essentially. It's not the gospel. So, if you look, the first result, it's some like fat dude with an acoustic guitar, and it says, learn 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, and 6/8. Now, I think we kind of got our hands on those time signatures. Those are the easy ones, right? So, 1, 2 is 1, 3/4 is like a swing. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1, right? 4/4 is like every pop song ever. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. 6/8 is kind of like that sort of 50s old like song sort of thing. One, two, three, four, 5, 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. So odd time signatures, the way you're going to break it down, rather than counting to 7, you break it out into 2s and 3s, right? Or rather than counting to 11 or 13, right? Or 5. So then, this is what we need to figure out. How can we summon these rhythms, these time signatures on command, essentially, right? So the way we just kind of went, yeah, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now, obviously, that's not how you want to compose music. Essentially, be like, oh, I want to do this one in this time signature, right? But we have to figure out how to slip into those time signatures seamlessly, right? So if I wanted to play something in 5 over 4, how would I just do that, right? So it'd be 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 10 1 10 1 10 10 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. Right? Now that is not a very good riff, but it becomes more difficult once you get into a large odd timing. That is where the hard stuff begins. It is a large odd timings. And that's usually how you make an interesting metal song. And it usually involves some sort of dynamic, right? Where there's an odd section and an even section. So it's like you could put them in the kind of the rough area, and then you bring them into lighter territory, and then you bring them back to the rough area. And so a lot of times there's like, it's like, basically this is what it is. We just need to learn how to slip into those timings seamlessly, and then when we are composing a song, we'll know when to use them. You just have to have faith. So guitar, odd time signature practice. Odd time signature exercise. So says this is for jazz.
Hi.
Right? So obviously jazz is probably the original prog rock. So yeah, this is a jazz guy. This is jazz duets. And he says, today we transform a tune in 4/4 time to 15/4, 7/4, 13/4, 11/4, 6/4, and 5/4. And so I can see how once we're getting up to 15/4, and you're playing, if you think about it in the context of jazz music, that is what makes it click perfectly. Because if you're thinking about jazz, you're just condensing all of it into those little moments. You're not going to count to 15, you're breaking it down into 3s and 2s. So that simplifies things, right? So if we can imagine a 15/4 rhythm, right? Let's try this. We'll try it first by counting to 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Versus 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now, on the surface, you might think, well, isn't that like just you're doing 3/4 and then you have a 1/2 at the end? And maybe you are. Alright, we haven't even watched this video, so it's just only 7 minutes. Let's watch this one.
My old guru, Gordon Rose, was an amazing, passionate teacher who had a huge influence on me. 20 years have passed, and his anecdotes are still stamped in my mind clearly. He was old school and hard, though. Gordon constantly urged us in big band practice to write music. Otherwise, condescendingly, he said, we would just be like technicians with our instruments. When I finally bucked up the courage to present to him one of my tunes, he tersely said it was uninteresting and square. The criticism was harsh and cut like a knife. But now I understand perfectly the lesson he wished to impart to me, which I would like to share with you today. So this is my original 4/4 tune.
Okay. So, this dude used to go to some sort of jazz school, and he had a teacher who was really good, and basically he told them that if you don't write music, then you're basically just like a technician with an instrument. And then this dude didn't write music, so he eventually wrote a piece and he showed it to his guitar, or his jazz teacher rather, and he said, yeah, that shit's uninteresting and square. And so he totally roasted this dude's jazz piece, and now he's showing us his original piece, which is in 4/4. And then he's gonna, I guess what he's gonna go with this is that he's gonna turn it into 15/4, 7/4. He's gonna show us how to take a piece in a simple time signature and transpose it into more complicated time signatures. So that's interesting. Let's
My
get to
old
it.
guru had complained. Too much space in the melody. It will never fly.
He suggested that I could have the melody, therefore in 7/4 time, cutting out a beat, to speed the action up. The idea of experimenting with an odd time signature had never occurred to me, as I was so set in my 4/4 time back then. So I went home with my tail a little between my legs and tried the melody in 7/4 time. It felt awkward at first, then after a while I really started to be attracted to its somewhat quirky nature. Here it is then in 7/4.
Okay. Alright. So, alright, hang on. Let's try it. So, this is not written for guitar, but we can still play these chords. So, this is the piece in 4/4. Let's go back to when it's in 4/4. So, it starts with F sharp major 7, which is this. Okay, so, it's F sharp major 7 to C dominant 7 to B minor 6. B minor 6. Now that is a chord I can't pull out of my ass, unfortunately. So that is alright. So B, how do we make a minor 6 then? I know what a minor 6 is. So the 6 is complicated because there's two different kinds of 6 chords. Let's do minor 6 chord. And so that's what we're basically going to be. So go back to our whiteboard, I put arpeggios and I go 7th, 9th, 6th, 11th, 13th. But the thing is, arpeggios are just chords, right? An arpeggio is you take a chord and you take the notes of the chord and you just repeat them infinitely. And you turn the chord into a scale, essentially. Alright, so then, let's tune up real quick. And that's essentially how you play jazz, right? So C minor 6, that's a minor 6. So he said B minor 6, but, right, so a minor 6, it looks like a minor 6 chord doesn't even have a minor 6 in it. How confusing is that? The minor 6 chord has a flat third, which is a minor third, right? And so the flat third is what makes it minor, but there's still a major 6. Alright, so then for reference, this is major 7. And then this is a minor 7. And then this is a minor 6. You just drop that one note. Right, so major 7, minor 7, and then minor 6. So I guess I could just think of the minor 6 chord as the same as a minor 7, but instead of a 7, you play a major 6. Instead of a minor 7, you play... So the minor 6 chord is like the minor 7, but it has a major 6. You see what I have to deal with? So minor 7, minor 6. You hear it? Da, da. It's literally just changing one note by a semitone. So then let's try doing this other chord voicing. That's an awkward chord voicing. But it's kind of cool sounding. This is more jazzy if I play it like this over here. So then let's return to this. So this is his chord progression. It goes F sharp major 7. So then it goes to C sharp. Oh, I said that was dominant 7. I guess that's C sharp minor 7. So it goes F sharp major 7 to C sharp minor 7, which is like this, to B minor 7, which is like this, or B minor 6 rather. Then he goes back to F sharp major 7. Then he goes up to C sharp minor 7. And then he goes to B flat 6. Right? And he plays that twice. And he goes back down to this. And then it goes up to F sharp minor 9. So let's try and figure this chord out. A minor 9. F sharp, C sharp minor 9 rather. Fuck it. Let's just look it up. Now, these are the sorts of things we're going to try to figure out instantaneously, essentially. So it's like, I have the tools to understand this stuff now. Like, I used to not understand what a minor 9 was. Now I have the tools to understand it, but I cannot summon it instantaneously. I gotta have to practice it. Right now, all I've got down are the 7th chords, which are like which is the first level of the complicated chords. Oh, actually, I do know that chord, the minor 9. I just don't understand it as the minor 9. Right, so that's kind of like this. I use a very similar chord in a song of mine, but then you're just adding a ninth on top of it. So yeah. Right, so I got this one. Right. So you just add a ninth on top of that chord. Right? So then this must be a minor 7 essentially. Here, let me tune up. Let me actually get the real tuner. For some reason, sometimes you try tuning by ear and you can't get it right. And then other times you tune by ear and it's perfect. Alright, so a minor 9. And there's 3 different voicings of that. So we could do this. We could do this, essentially. We could do this. Or we can do this sucker. Right? And so we're gonna have to, so this is what the future looks like. We spent a lot of time figuring out the triads and their inversions, which we kind of already knew, but we had to go back to basics so we can understand inversions, triads, and create arpeggios out of them. What the future is going to look like is we're going to have complicated 4-note chords like the minor 9, the minor 6, the major 11th, right, all of that. And then we're going to create inversions out of the 4-note chords, right? So that is what the future, and so basically the concepts you start at the basics, they build up into the more complicated stuff. So you use the same ideas for more complicated combinations of notes, essentially. So if you were to return, right, F sharp major 7, C sharp minor 7, B minor 6. Then we go to F sharp major 7 again. Then he goes to C sharp 9. Then he goes to D major 7. Oh, we did C sharp 9. We did C 9. It's C sharp 9. Or C sharp minor 9. So let's try this one more time. So F sharp major 7. In fact, okay, let's think about the rhythm, because the whole point, what we're getting lost here in the details over learning these jazz chords, is that he's turning a 4/4 thing into a 7/8 into a 15/4. He's going to take this chord progression and turn it into a bunch of different time signatures. So I guess it's good we get this chord progression first, okay? So let's count this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. F sharp major 7. C sharp 7, minor 7, B flat 6. He does it 2 bars. F sharp major 7, C sharp major 9, minor 9, D sharp major 7. Alright, now F sharp major 7. C sharp minor 7, B minor 9, then he goes D minor 9, E minor 9, F sharp minor 9. Oh, I did G minor 9. Whatever. Alright, so let's just
He
listen to
suggested
this.
that I could have the melody
Here, we'll actually try playing along
to
with it.
impart to me, which I would like to share with you.
Because now that we
today.
know those chords. Actually, we gotta do it
And
quicker.
perfectly the lesson he wished to impart to me,
Let's just play it
which I would
once
like to share
for
with
each.
you today.
Yeah.
So this is my original 4/4 tune. My old guru had complained.
Too much space in the melody.
My old
Alright. We can get this right. This is not the main point of this video, but we're getting some chord practice in, which is good.
lesson he wished to impart to me, which I would like to share with you today. So this is my original 4/4 tune. My old guru had complained.
Too much space in the melody. It will never fly.
He suggested that I could have the melody, therefore in 7/4 time, cutting out a beat, to speed the action up. The idea of experimenting with an odd time signature had never occurred to me, as I was so set in my 4/4 time back then. So I went home with my tail a little between my legs and tried the melody in 7/4 time. It felt awkward at first, then after a while I really started to be attracted to its somewhat
Alright.
quirky
So now this is it switched to F major 7.
nature. Here it
Or
is
I
in
mean,
7/4.
7/4, I mean, time signature. Alright.
7/4.
One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So yeah, alright. So the way he does it is as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Or wait. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's so we're breaking apart 7. So it's 1 count of 3 and 2 counts of 2. So let's try playing along with that in mind, and I think we can do it.
Awkward at first, then after a while I really started to be attracted to its somewhat quirky nature. Here it is then in 7/4.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That definitely is a lot more complicated. So he does all 7 of those beats within that little area, right?
Time. It felt awkward at first, then after a while
Here, let me pause it and try to figure that out without him in mind. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
I really started to be
Alright, let's try
attracted to its somewhat
clapping
quirky
it out
nature.
before we
Here
try
it
it.
is then in 7/4.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Hang on.
7/4.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Hang on. This is how you know it's real practice, when you really are fucking having trouble with it.
Somewhat quirky nature. Here it is then in 7/4.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And so he's counting to 7. However, if we break it apart, it seems like it's almost a little easier.
Here it is then in 7/4.
So I think for 7 you can get away with counting to 7. But once you get up to like 15, 13, and 11, there's no way you're going to count that out. But alright, let's just try this then. Let's try this by just counting to 7 then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Man, this is just tough because now I'm thinking about this in a jazz context. All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. Man, I'm legit struggling here with this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Here it is then in 7/4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, let's try that one more time. We're closer there. We we're getting the wrong chords though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
This 7 can also be subdivided into eighth notes. Groups of 2, 2, 3, and 2, 2, 3.
Alright, that's exactly what I'm saying. So it's 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Which equals 14, which will produce a clave. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1,
drumming capabilities.
A good way to start practicing this 7 is like this.
Probably not.
Foot marking the quarters. Then add the 8th notes with the voice. And now, tap the clave.
Huh. So now he's giving me some fucking jazz shit. This is why jazz people are so weird. So they tap it on the foot, and then they do the 8th notes on their mouth, and then they collapse on certain points. So they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with their foot. I'm tapping that out. They go with their mouth. Yeah. okay, I can internalize these notions. I think generally what I end up doing for everything is I understand it in a broad sense, but there is a certain sort of application that is relevant to me.
After a while, I started to wonder how my tune would sound if I sliced out another beat. That would be a bar of 7/4 and then a bar of 6/4.
So now he's getting into the territory I'm more interested in. So he's making it so there's two different time signatures it goes back and forth between. So the first bar is in 7, and then the second bar is in 6, and then the next bar is in 7, and then the next bar is in 6. Right? So if I were to try that myself, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh shit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, the thing is, these are technically 7/4 and 6/4 beats and measures. But I don't know if this dude's like fucking little jazz composition is the best way to highlight these different time signatures. That being said, the point has been internalized. So, let's try making more of a staccato nature to it, so there's a rhythmic component, right? So now, okay, so when I'm doing my other thing, I'm trying to remove the staccato aspect. Now we're trying to incorporate a staccato thing on with intention. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. Here, I gotta count this in my head so I can play this better. It's harder to count it in your head. It is. You would think it'd be easier. Now, the thing is, it's kind of hard both ways because I'm trying to play these jazz chords that are kind of complicated while maintaining the rhythm. I feel like I'm coming down with like a flu or like a cold or something. Which is no bueno. I got like a tickling in my throat. Maybe I'm just talking too much. Well, let's continue.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So the main thing I don't like about this guy, and that's a pretty rude thing to say, but it seems like he's using music theory wrong. Rather than it being descriptive, he's using it prescriptive. He's like, alright, well let's try making it so that one bar is 7/4, and then the next bar is 6/4. And then let's try doing da 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 da, right? Here's the thing about British people. They're not as smart as they sound. In fact, they're really dumb. I know British people. It's all an illusion. That manner of speak, it's all an illusion. The British people are dumb as fuck, dude. Which is a shame. I think most intelligent people look back at the time of the British Empire with nostalgia. If it wasn't for that pesky World War I, we would still have a British Empire. Its fate was settled when it decided to intervene. And Britain intervening between a war that was between primarily Germany and France turned that into a world war. And then they sealed their fate. That's why Britain is in such major decline right now. So, rest in peace, the British Empire. What a force to be reckoned with, honestly. They did some fucked up shit. But you know what? Everybody with some modicum of power can't help but crush somebody else's dreams to achieve it. That's how the world works on some level. Look into the Opium Wars between China and Britain. Fascinating stuff. You kind of gotta feel bad for China, but on some level, fuck China. Who gives a fuck about China? Where did I drop my fucking cake? Here we go. So what do we want to do? You want to keep going with this time signature stuff? I think we got some good information, but I'm reaching the point where I'm at my wit's end in that regard. So, but I think what we could add to the board, and we can tie this into time signatures. So I have mixing note values, right? That's essentially when you're playing in a single time signature and you're messing around with the notes between each beat, right? So you can have whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, triplets, sextuplets, etc., right? Now, what we could do is mixing time signatures, right? And so then you would be messing around with the actual the time signatures of which those beats exist within, right? So let's picture this. Let's say you are playing at a certain time signature in like 4/4, right? You're playing in 4/4 and you're playing at, like, let's say hypothetically like 60 BPM, right? So you're playing in 4/4 and it goes, if you want to play whole notes, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you want to play half notes, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you want to play quarter notes, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, right? Then what you could do is change the time signature too. And so you could switch the 4/4 to 5/4 or something like that, or to 6/4. I don't know, we could figure out the details. But then that would add an extra dimension upon which the rhythm has been changed. Because now you're no longer playing to 4, you're playing to 6. So then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 14, whatever the fuck. Up to, I probably wouldn't count it out that big, right? So let's say we're playing quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That comes up to 6, right? We'll figure out the details, but you see where I'm getting at, right? You mess around with the time signature and the note values at the same time. So I'll add that. Mixing, I'm just gonna write TS, and I'll point back to the other thing that says time signatures. I'll know what that means. China's pissed. China's pissed at the West. Go look up China's century of humiliation. The century of humiliation. That is from the mid 1800s up until after World War II. So it's like, yeah, like we like China. We're gonna buy all their cheap goods. China hates us. See, our leaders were under this delusion in the 90s after the Soviet Union fell, and that Russia and then China, they liberalized their economy, right? They were under this delusion that now everyone's going to become a a uh, a Western liberal open democracy, when that is not the case. If you read newspapers in the early 90s, during the fall of the Soviet Union, this is one of the headlines they would have. It's the end of history. History is over now. We did it. America wins. Of course, what they mean by that is that now we're all just going to get along, and we're all going to become democracies, and everything's going to be good. Whoever said that, it's clearly fucking retarded. It's the end of history, guys. We did it. We beat the Soviet Union. And so if you were to analogize the state of world affairs during the 1920s to the 2020s, well, I would actually say the 1910s. The 1910s to the 2020s, there's some parallels you can draw. The notion of sleepwalking into a world war that nobody wanted to fight, but we all had to honor our contracted defense obligations. Let Russia have it. Who gives a fuck? Because it's like, come on. Now, see, now what Ukraine is preparing to do now so it's like, Russia crossed the line with us, the vague Western NATO alliance, right? They crossed the line with us, and so we're not going to forgive them, right? But now, we've already crossed lines with Russia, and now they're about to cross even Ukraine. They're gearing up to invade in this area called Transnistria. And if they fucking go through with that shit can get pretty dark pretty quickly, I think. And so, at this point, Zelensky, this Jew fella, who's in charge of Ukraine for some reason, he's refusing to negotiate with Putin, essentially. Russia's been attempting to sue for peace for a while. And so what's happening is China is going to step in and negotiate as a third party for Putin, essentially, with Zelensky. But at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of the spiritual existence of man on this planet, who gives a fuck about Ukraine's borders? Nobody. Nobody. Nobody cares. They're having a border dispute. They're going, hey, these people in the Donbass region, they're they speak Russian. They don't speak Ukrainian. They speak Russian, and they don't want to be a part of Ukraine. Now, the cynical views, you go, well, that's just a pretense so they can land grab and they can da-da-da. But look, fundamentally, there's no vehicle, there's no method where Russia gets a fair shake. Right? It's not like they can put it up to a vote for the Donbass region whether or not they want to be a part of Russia or Ukraine. NATO has all the power. Is this worth nuking each other over? I don't think so. I think the vast majority of people really don't give a fuck. Now, on the other hand, let's go back to our World War analogies. So prior to World War II, there was a similar sort of situation, right, where Hitler wanted to, after World War I, there was this, there's this treaty. It was called the Treaty of Paris. Let me double check that. Or the Treaty of Versailles. That's right, the Treaty of Versailles. After World War I. And essentially what had happened is that they were very, very, very harsh against Germany. Because I don't know if they were called the Allies at this point, but basically France, America, Britain, they won. And so they were super fucking punitive against Germany. And so Germany was a very massive country, and they took away all this land and they gave it to Austria, and they took away all of this land and they gave it to Poland, and they took away all of this land and they split Germany up into a much smaller country. Alright, and so Hitler, when he came into power, he was actually born on the border between Austria and Germany, right? And so essentially he was going into the land that was taken away from Germany after World War I. And he's saying like, listen, we're going to take this back. All the people that live there, they're German. They speak German. They aren't Czech. They aren't Austrian. They're German, right? And so that should be a part of Germany. And essentially what had happened is that Neville Chamberlain, who was the Prime Minister of Britain at the time, he flew into Germany and had these negotiations with Hitler. And this was a policy that if you take a high school history class, they'll tell you about. It's called appeasement. Appeasement, right? And so basically what they had decided is like, all right, Hitler, we'll let you have the Sudetenlands because they are historically German. And then Neville Chamberlain, and Hitler had the promise that there would be no war. Like, I promise, no war, ha ha ha. And so then Neville Chamberlain went back to Britain, and there's this famous newspaper clipping where it's him arriving back from Germany, and then the headline is peace in our time, peace in our time. And then like a couple years later it's like World War II. So if you were to analogize that to the Russia situation, you could see from the Western perspective, well, we don't want to appease Russia. And so, I think anyone can attest to the fact that it is a tricky situation. There's no clear, simple way out of this. But I think the first step would have to be both sides acknowledge, listen, we don't want to fucking nuke each other and destroy the world. And we also want to stop killing each other. Once the bullets stop flying and the threats of nukes stop, in the Cold War, they would have a term for this, right? It was called détente, right? So there would be times where it would get very, very tense, like the Cuban Missile Crisis, where it's like, oh shit, is nukes gonna fucking fly tomorrow? And then there would be periods where all of the tension would cool off. It's called détente. That is another high school like level, whatever. Anyways, I think we need a bit of détente on this whole Ukraine situation before we can start, both sides start coming up with, you know, compromises. And then, in my mind, if you're stupid, you would go, what are you living in La La Land? We can't just stop the war. Like, that's, what do you mean? Da, 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 da. Russia's doing this, or NATO's doing this. And it's like, well, what's the alternative, motherfucker? Are we just gonna kill each other? What, are we gonna invade Russia? Are we gonna bomb Moscow? Or are you gonna, like, wait until Putin nukes Poland or whatever the fuck? Like, what do you mean? Like, what is the alternative? This is probably the dumbest fucking war. Like, human beings only get dumber and dumber. See, because it's like in World War One and World War Two, you can kind of couch these wars in a larger ideological, philosophical, psychological current, right? You're like, oh, fascism, communism, capitalism, socialism. There's all these sorts of modes of thought going on, right? Whereas, like, when you listen to Putin speak, he's like, the West is degenerate. They have trannies and gay people are grooming, and it's like, I don't necessarily disagree that shit's gross, but it's like, is this where we are? Like, we're fighting wars over trannies now? I do not want to get nuked over trannies. No, sir. And that's what it boils down to, really. I know it sounds silly, but that's what it is. It's a cultural difference within Ukraine. Ukraine has become Western and liberalized, and now the women are on birth control and whatever. It's like it's all a bunch of associated things, right? About the Western way of being, right? Like no fault divorce, birth control, transsexualism, homosexuality. It's like, okay, you pick them apart by them own, and you can make reasons for and against and whatever. But the culmination of it all culminates in a different style of being, right? Than what human beings have traditionally been accustomed to, right? And so that is what fundamentally the war is about. The people within eastern Ukraine who want to be part of Russia, they don't want to be a part of degenerate Western culture. Man, shit's wild out there, man. Shit's wild out there. Yeah, man, something about when they all took a bunch of acid in the 60s really fucked with people's brains. I'm sure it was cool at the time. Like, we're gonna break all the rules, we're gonna just be naked, and we're gonna listen to the Grateful Dead. Obviously, there's levels to it. Civil rights. JFK. That was really when, go look into the Dulles brothers. They're the people who really turned the CIA and all the intelligence agencies against the American people. John and Alan Dulles. Some people say they're the people who killed JFK. But they're very, very important to American history, and they're not very well known. John and Alan Dulles. You know what's interesting about the Treaty of Versailles? It happened on my birthday, June 28th. The Dulles brothers. I think they have an airport named after them. But they basically were in charge of the CIA under Eisenhower and Kennedy. Eisenhower was the last truly flawless president. Obviously, JFK was a good dude. But if you actually look at JFK, what he got done, he didn't get a lot done. Obviously, you could attribute that to him getting fucking popped. Eisenhower got a lot done. You got to give credit to Reagan. People hated on Reagan. That was like one of the first presidents where it was like, we fucking hate Reagan. Reagan sucks. Fuck Reagan. Right? It became like a sport. But you know what? We would not have beat Russia in the Cold War if it was not for Reagan. Obviously, Reagan was not a flawless president. But in terms of foreign policy, I think just that sort of fuck it attitude. You know what I mean? I don't put it. That's a low intelligence way of putting it. But fundamentally, this is what it is. Reagan's policy on Russia was we win, they lose. Now, obviously, that is a different situation than we're in now. Because you might say, well, Biden's policy is we win, they lose. Yeah, well, it was different then because we were locked in a fucking 50-year-long Cold War, right? Now we're stoking the flames of a new Cold War, essentially, when we didn't need to have one. But essentially, let's go back to what I was talking about, détente. Like the Carter administration, or the hypothetical Mondale administration, their idea was that we would have an endless they would have endless détente. And this is what the world is going to be. We are going to live in a bipolar world where there is Russia, the Soviet Union, and America, right? There's going to be the Soviet Union and America, and that's how the world is going to be for the next hundreds of years, right? And Reagan came in without all of the Washington know-how, whatever the fuck, and his policy was, no, we're going to beat Russia. And he also had the help of Maggie Thatcher. Maggie Thatcher is a badass. Gotta respect Maggie Thatcher. A lot of British people hate on Margaret Thatcher. She's one of the greatest world leaders. Thing is there's different lens upon which you can look at these things, right? There's the domestic policy and the global geopolitical policy. Yeah, I mean, never trust anything you see on TV. Don't trust anyone over 30. Shout out to the hippies. Don't trust anyone over 30, man. Don't trust anyone over 30. What happened to all those hippies? Now they're over 30 and they're like, trust us, we know what's going on. Like, that is a fucking hilarious phrase. Don't trust anyone over 30. That shows what America in the 60s was like. They're just a bunch of squares, man. They don't get it. We got our own version of that. We do not fuck with boomers, I'll tell you that. Fuck boomers. I fucking hate boomers, man. Millennials and Generation Z are not fond of boomers. man, you know, Generation X, when it was their time, it was all like, this is the lost generation, they're so disaffected, they're this, they're that. I think Generation X got off pretty easy, like. Obviously, they had their problems, like everybody. People was doing heroin, there was crack. They had the threat of thermonuclear war. But they had all that great music. They had the war on drugs. That was not cool of Reagan, man. That was not cool. This is your brain on drugs. That shit doesn't even make any sense, too. This is your brain on drugs. They're like crack an egg. Like, what's that supposed to mean? Drugs are gonna fry your brain? I guess that one's obvious. Maybe I want to make my brain into a fried egg, man. Don't judge me. Healthy at any size. When did that start? When did that shit start? We're here, we're queer, get over it. Man, I think people were probably just better off in like 18 fucking 40 when they're like, we're gonna go west, get in the wagon. As they say, ignorance is bliss. Yeah, we're gonna go west. I hear there's good land out there. We're gonna go west. And then imagine, like, let's take that analogy, let's just bring it back. Like, let's go to the 1000s. Like 1056, the Crusades. The Pope puts out a call. We are going to wage a holy crusade. So we will take back Jerusalem so that when Christ comes back, then the Messiah will have good Christians in charge of the Holy Land. That is a purpose I would die for. Imagine that. Imagine being on the actual army of Richard the Lionheart from Britain. Marches all the way across Europe, right? Marches into Jerusalem. He's fighting with Saladin. He's fighting with the Muslims. It probably would have been a good life other than the dysentery and like everybody getting fucking stabbed with swords and shit, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe it sucked. I think the 1950s seemed like a pretty quaint time in retrospect. Pretty quaint. At least in America. Sorry, blacks. And so I guess it never was perfect. Maybe it's perfect right now, where I can sit in front of a computer and have all of the information of all of history at my fingertips. No, this shit sucks. Who knows, man? I think probably the best time in all of human history was in November of 1991 when Nirvana's Nevermind came out. And everybody heard Smells Like Teen Spirit for the first time. That was probably the best time in human history. when Tupac All Eyes on Me came out, phew, oh brother, will wonders ever cease? Who knows? Maybe the acid tests in the 60s. Maybe that was the peak of human history. When like the Grateful Dead, Neil Cassidy, all those people, they all got locked in a room and they all did acid. Maybe when Tool, no, maybe when Tool ladder out, no, when Pulp Fiction came out, that was the peak. Da 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 da, that was so cool, man. That was the peak of human history. No, when The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King came out, that was when human history peaked. Oh no, man, it was here's when human history peaked. It was when I was a kid and I was in the theaters back in the 60s and I saw Planet of the Apes for the first time. And then we realized that he was on Earth the whole time. That was the peak of human history. No, man. No, the peak of human history is when I was watching Star Wars and I realized that Darth Vader was Luke's father for the first time. This is my answer. After 9/11, and then we remember when 9/11 happened, that was such a dark day. It was so terrible. And then, but the day after, we all put it all aside, and we were all going to come together as one America. That was the peak of human history. We were like, we're going to help each other out, be extra nice to each other. Nah. The peak of human history was when Barack Obama, the first African American president, was elected. I cried. Maybe the peak hasn't happened yet. Maybe the peak, you know what, here's the actual good answer. The peak of human history so far was when we landed on the fucking moon for the first time. Apollo 11. I wish people would stop hating on Elon Musk. They're just haters. They're just player haters, man. There's people more deserving of your hate than Elon Musk. Let's be real. Elon went from like, oh yeah, we love Elon, electric cars, he's great, to fuck Elon, we fucking hate Elon, he's a fucking... This is the question. It's like, I look at these world leaders, what are their end game? What are they working towards? What do they think they're trying to do? It's like the world leaders are not impressive people. And you know what? They probably shouldn't be. It's probably better if they're kind of like you and me. I think people hated on Richard Nixon too hard. He was a good guy. Honestly. Honest. I think Richard Nixon was a good guy. Yeah, I know he does. He's an inspiring figure like JFK. I think he was a good guy. Or Watergate was such a scandal. Da, 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 da. Who gives a fuck? I don't give a fuck. But they went into the thing and they took some documents. Who gives a fuck? Nowadays, they do 12 times worse every day, but they do it over the internet. So there's no paper trail. And the problem of Watergate, dude, Nixon didn't even know about that shit until afterwards. Really what they got him on was how he tried to cover it up. Back then, they had the illusion that like American politicians were supposed to be like good, upstanding people. And so it was a big deal that someone broke the rules. However, John F. Kennedy cheated. Lyndon Johnson cheated. Everybody cheated back then. And they always talk down to Nixon, like Nixon was so paranoid, he did it. How the fuck wouldn't you be paranoid when you're surrounded by fucking vultures like that? Nixon was a very reasonable person. We didn't know how good we had it. Like, and if you ever watch any of those fucking stupid documentaries, it's always like, you know, Nixon was pretty good with foreign policy, and then he was also pretty good domestically too, and he was trying to get us out of Vietnam, and da-da-da-da-da. It's like, it's all good things. Obviously, he kind of dragged ass on Vietnam, but you know what? He didn't fucking start that shit. But you should read about it. I got a good Nixon book. I'd highly recommend. All the documentaries are always biased. Documentaries, you gotta go into it knowing that it's like, obviously the books are biased too, but it's like, it's easier to try to present objective facts, right? You can have more citations, right? Whereas documentaries, they're propagandizing you because they use music and then they have tone of voice, and so they're conditioning you to feel certain ways about certain things, right? I like William McKinley. That's one of my favorite presidents that nobody ever talks about. You know which president like literally makes me sad? Like I get sad thinking about his life. Abraham Lincoln. What a fucking great man. If you look at Abraham Lincoln's face, that's what depression looks like. He's probably our greatest president. Man. Lincoln was a great person. He went through a lot and then they killed him. And you know, he didn't die. He didn't die right out. He got shot in the head and he lived for like hours and hours, like I think a couple of days even. I'll look that up. He died the next day. He was shot in the head and he bled out for a whole day. Alright. I don't want to talk about Lincoln. I'm going to get too sad, honestly. But that man dealt with some very severe depression. Just look at his face, man. It says it all. Go look at the actual photos of Lincoln. That man took no joy sending thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of men to their death. But it had to be done. The Civil War was the deadliest war in world history at that point. And how quickly we forget what was sacrificed. A great man. Okay. To be fair, you do have to have a high IQ to understand American history. Also Rick and Morty. Hey, full circle. Alright then, I'm gonna call it quits now. Bye.